Today on an all-new Ricky, a 9-year-old born male but living as a female. 5 years old, Dannon was suicidal.
At 4 years old, I mean, she's tried to cut off her penis, screaming, I want to die, I want to die.
Gender identity crisis. But imagine going through life feeling like you're trapped in the wrong body.
Dad always used to say, stop crying, you're a boy. It was difficult. I tried not to feel like I was a woman.
How to cope and how to get help. On Ricky.
You should be proud of who you are.
Amen, sister. At the moment we are born, our gender is announced to the world as the doctor or midwife calls out, it's a boy or it's a girl. And from then on, it is something that most of us never challenge. But imagine going through life feeling like you're trapped in the wrong body. Bill and Sarah are the parents of 9-year-old Dannon. Though identified as a boy at birth, as soon as she could speak, she insisted that she was a girl. But it was a struggle for her parents to catch on. Take a look.
We have been married 14 years, and we have 2 children.
Our son James, who's 11, and our daughter Dannon, who's 9. My pregnancy with Dannon, they told me it was a boy. When Dannon was an infant, Dannon was a very happy baby. We called him our little Buddha. Always smiling, always laughing. Nothing different. Hit all his milestones just as any healthy child would.
Doing little boy things.
As soon as Dannon could talk, it was, I'm a girl. I'm a girl. And I'd say, no, honey, you're a boy. You are a boy.
Yeah, she started putting this into a thought.
Yeah. The first time I noticed anything different with Dannon, we were in a store and she saw these little shoes, little high heels, like, glass slipper type things. And she just had a melt, like, I have to have those. I need those, I want those. Our son was just, completely outfitted as a fairy princess.
Started with the clothing, and then it progressed to the toys that she wanted to start getting.
She'd be transfixed at these little dolls. She called them her rubber dress dollies. I remember our daycare lady saying Dannon was so concerned because a little girl was getting her diaper changed, and it was, whoa, something's missing there. Right before she started kindergarten, I remember walking into our playroom at the time and watching her with children's scissors trying to cut off her penis. And she'd gotten through like 1 layer of skin. The look on Dannon's face was so frightening because it was this look of total determination, like, I'm getting rid of this. And I just was like, oh my God, you're bleeding, oh my God, I gotta call the doctor. I was hysterical, and Dannon was just this eerie calmness, and she sat down, just this look of sadness, like, darn, like, she didn't say anything. I knew there's something very, very wrong. And she said, God made a mistake when he made me.
Thank you both for being here today. I think it's really important you coming on, sharing your story and what you've been through to help others out there. So tell us about Dannon. What was Dannon like as a baby? When did you know something was not right?
About 2 years old, 2.5.
And what happened at that time?
That's when we came back from a trip. She'd been staying with a friend of ours, her family, and that friend has a little girl, and they played dress up, and she was dressed up when we came to get her. Actually, Sarah was the one that went into the house to pick her up, and go ahead.
Jump in.
Well, and actually, just to back up a little bit, before that time, before that actual instant, because that was kind of a hallmark, like a milestone moment. She was a very happy baby, or he. It's weird with pronouns, but he was a very happy baby. We called him our little Buddha, and just always smiling. And that day when we came just to pick Dannon up, I walked in, and my friend was horrified and started apologizing immediately because Dannon was completely dressed up as a princess, had this full-on princess dress on, had the crown on, had the little high heels on. They had painted her nails. And
so did it strike you that, or did it seem perfectly natural to you?
Well, I was taken aback a bit, but it wasn't, I knew kids played dress up, but what did strike me was the look of happiness on her face. It was a kind of happiness, like almost sublime. It was like ecstasy in a way, like, oh my gosh, look at me. Look at how wonderful I look. Like, oh, I'd never seen her like that. And having, her always being, laughing and being a happy child, this was just something I had never seen, this kind of level of as I said, complete ecstasy.
And so after that time, he wanted to dress up as a girl from then on.
Yeah, and when we tried to get the clothes off, she started screaming and, you know, just had a complete temper tantrum, something I'd never seen before.
But at 2, you think terrible temper tantrum, that's normal behavior.
Right, but she has never done anything that was normal. So this was her first terrible 2 temper tantrum, and that's what I thought at first until things started to change.
So yeah, so tell us what started to change and what made you starting to seek out medical help and try different avenues?
Just angry. She was angry all the time. She would lash out at her brother and us. So we were a little afraid, you know.
And then she also became like self-inflicting. Like,
yes, she eventually did that. I mean, as soon as she could speak, you know, she would say, "I am a girl." And, you know, I'm a girl, I want the pink sippy cup, you know. And we said, okay, that's fine, that's fine. And, you know, she'd start dressing up. And, you know, she'd take like a towel or like a blanket and make it into this awesome Grecian dress or whatever. She'd take my tights out of the laundry basket.
She's going to be the winner of Project Runway.
Oh, she absolutely is the winner of Project Runway, absolutely.
So this was just who she was. And so when you went to doctors and you described the behavior and what was going on, what did they say to you? What did they diagnose her as?
Well, first it was just a phase. This is just a phase. This is just, you know, don't worry about it, it's just a phase. And
but she wasn't saying, I want to be a girl. She was saying, I am.
I am. There was a big difference.
Did you know anything about transgender?
No. I mean, we had gay and lesbian friends. And later, you know, as she started to get a little older, I thought, oh, okay, cool, I have a gay son. We will watch Project Runway together. That's, you know, fine.
Something you'll have in common.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go shopping, that'll be great, you know. I didn't know what transgender was, and later, when I actually first heard the word, I literally didn't know the difference between transgender, transvestite,
and transsexual. I mean, we're going to talk about the different terms and what they mean, because I really don't fully understand it all either. But at 5 years old, Dannon was suicidal.
At 4 years old, she'd get so angry, you know, when we'd say, you know, like going to school was a nightmare, trying to get her dressed, but she would get so mad, she'd start scratching herself until she bled. And later on, a friend of mine hung herself, and, you know, Dannon overheard me on the phone, and that's when the, you know, tying stuff around her neck, she was fascinated with nooses, was fascinated with, you know, all things about hanging, and we had to take everything out of her room that could possibly be used to hurt herself.
She ran in front of a car.
Yeah, she did. She ran right into traffic. We were on a busy street, and this man swerved, and, you know, he got out and he was like, "Are you okay?" And she just started screaming at him, "Why didn't you hit me? Why didn't you run me over? I just want to die." And that was when we started going to the serious people, the big guys.
The big guys. Who are the big guys?
We took her to Children's Hospital of Orange County and had a full endocrinology panel done, because we thought, well, maybe there's a possibility she might be intersex. You know, maybe there's a...
So wait, what is intersex?
That's when a child is born with it could be born with a uterus and a penis.
Oh, okay, so it's when a child is born with both sexes.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
That is not the case.
Chromosomes were all male. We were hoping it was something as simple as that.
And we also had a full psych evaluation as well. And that's, you know, when they came back saying, you know, we believe your child is transgender.
That was the first time you heard those words?
Actually, that was the third time. We'd had, my grandmother, who's 95, had brought a pamphlet home from our church and said, "I think Dannon might be transgender." And
okay, if that's not bizarre.
Yeah.
Your 95-year-old grandma is pretty enlightened. So from church, found this. So that was when it first sort of struck a
Well, that was
chord.
the first time I heard it, and then we had to take Dannon to another psychologist who had evaluated her for learning disabilities. She said, "It's really hard for me to test her right now because she's so deeply unhappy with who she is, and you know, I do believe your child's transgender, and the next step might be to talk to an endocrinologist." And I just kind of shelved that, and, you know, was like, okay, and started, you know, looking on, you know, stuff on the internet. So I usually think that if you hear things in threes, it's usually right. And so the third time we heard it from both the endocrinologist and the psychologist and the psychiatrist, it was like, okay.
Well, let me just say, the child you're describing is deeply unhappy, suicidal, is the opposite of the child that I met earlier before the show. Yes. I mean, it happens to be one of the happiest little girls I've ever seen. But we're going to take a quick break. Coming up next, Sarah and Bill were faced with a controversial decision. Should they let their son live life as a girl? We'll find out what these parents did after this. Coming up, what kind of stress did this have on your family?
We didn't want this, you know. It's not something that we just bought into right away. We thought, what happened? How did we cause this?
And later, you want to meet Dannon? What would you do if your little boy were desperate to become a little girl? Bill and Sarah have faced that question head on, and they admit it has not been easy. What kind of stress did this have on your family? I mean, you seem like a really united couple, but I guess that wasn't always the case.
No. Well, the stress of it all, you know, it took its toll. And, you know, we didn't want this, you know. It's not something that we just bought into right away. And we thought, what had we done? What happened? How did we cause this? Or what happened? What did somebody do to cause this? We thought that was something that happened to her.
And you know that you did nothing to cause this.
I do now,
we know
yeah.
now, yeah.
But at the time, we'd beat ourselves up trying to figure out what the heck happened to her. And we didn't really, we thought maybe, you know, we could fix it somehow, you know.
We were also on different pages in terms of how we were dealing with it. I tended to be a little bit more lenient and, you know, would buy the little dolls for Dan and would buy, you know, little dress-up things that we hid from Daddy. And
so there were separate rules.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a lot more lenient with her, and I just, you know, wanted to encourage her creativity because she's an incredibly creative child, and you know, and Bill was not always, you know, didn't always agree with me on that.
So you guys separated for a year?
Yes.
But have now come back together?
Yes.
How is it with your other child, your son?
He always actually referred to as a sister. In fact, I got pulled into a parent-teacher conference because he had written you know, write about your summer, and he had written, me and my sister did this, and me and my sister did that. And at that time, Dannon was attending the same school, and so, you know, the teacher was very concerned because clearly this is not his sister.
He was on board with it, you know, faster than anybody, though,
Yeah.
it seemed.
So where does it stand now? You got that diagnosis, and you're letting her live her life as a little girl, the little girl she was probably born to be. Yeah. How is it in school? Is she accepted where she is in school?
Absolutely, actually.
Now she is, yeah. I mean, it wasn't as simple as just, okay, let's just do this.
Yeah, how does it work? I mean, she has doctors, and is she on certain medication now?
Not yet. She will be. You know, when we were informed about, you know, we believe your child is transgender, we were referred to a therapist who's a specialist, and, you know, who at first said, you know, I think Dan should transition right now, and we were like, no, it's not going to happen.
What does that mean, transition?
Meaning present as a girl. Not taking any drugs, not doing any surgeries, just, you know, dressing as the gender that she identifies with.
And to go into the little girl's room instead of the little boy's room, all of that. And you thought it was too soon?
We thought it was too soon. And then she actually gave us a DVD of that showed it was a special of another couple who had a child just very similar to Dannon. And, you know, we were at this point, you know, the stress of going through, you know, not knowing what was wrong with our child. I mean, it was more than just, you know, it was like we were hearing all these different diagnoses from doctors, and, you know, we weren't necessarily on board with it, and we were disagreeing with each other. And so even we were at the point of separating, we're watching this DVD going, oh my God, that's our kid, which is tears coming down our face. And we said, you know, we both said, this has to happen. And eventually we had to take her out of the school she was in because she was getting bullied by kids. She wasn't going to start dressing as a girl until after school ended. Mm-hmm. And she was getting bullied, and, you know, was living one life at home and then one life at school, and it was getting very, you know, hard for her to deal with that. And some of the behaviors, you know, started to come back again. I will tell you, once she changed and was able to be who she really was, that's the little girl you see right now. But
do you worry about her future?
Absolutely. And in fact, when we changed schools, I was very concerned that the school would be, I was told by people, you have to get a family law attorney. You know, they're probably not going to go along with letting her use the girls' room. No problem.
Well, the last thing I wanted was for her to grow up and do drugs and run away and injure herself because she's not allowed to be who she is. And there's too many cases where that has happened.
And when you're a parent, you love your child unconditionally. And so it's just been a path of finding all the answers that you needed to hear about her. And now that you're at this place, you know, she loves herself because she knows you love her no matter what.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we like I said, we educated ourselves. And
you're educating us by being here and sharing your story and introducing us to your beautiful daughter, Dannon, who we'll meet later on. You are doing such a huge service to all of us. So I thank you. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, where do Sarah and Bill go from here? When we come back, a deeper look into the world of transgender youth. And later, we will meet Dannon. Can't wait. We'll be right back.